Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy, and it is always a great pleasure to be standing alongside the whole team. Welcome to Joe Stanley, Jacqui, Felgate, Dr. Nick Carr. How are you guys?
Hi, Daz.
It is absolutely gorgeous to be here, Daz. But, you know, they say that summer bodies are made in winter, but it's so hard to get your body moving when it's so cold.
Yeah, but it's a good time to do it, Joe, because winter workouts, just getting some walking, running, cycling, 30, 45 minutes a day, been shown to reduce your risk of respiratory infection by over a half. So well worth it.
Sometimes, though, I get a little stressed about trying to get up to those 10,000 steps a day, and it turns out they may not even be necessary.
And Jack, we've been attuned to that, haven't we? That if you don't do 10,000 steps, then somehow you've failed and you've had a bad day. I must admit, I do find myself checking the phone a little bit. That's the case. But science is suggesting not required 10,000 steps. As Nick said, getting some form of exercise a day is just good for your health.
Well, actually, the 10,000 steps was a part of a marketing ploy from the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. So it's not even a real thing, right? They just wanted to get, it was a national push to get Japan active using pedometers.
You're absolutely right, Joe, and we now know that the science shows that for people under 60, you get nearly all the benefit you need from just 8 to 10,000 steps, and for the over 60s, 6 to 8,000, that's all you need. It's enough.
And I don't miss running at all, Joe. I've shared that with you. When you used to, for a living, have someone with a stopwatch yelling at you to run faster, that killed the joy of running for me. So it's a form of exercise I don't miss. But I know you guys are both passionate runners.
I love running, but no one's standing with the stopwatch. I just get to plod along at my own pace, feeling very meditative and really enjoying the endorphins that come from that. But I'm going very much at my own pace.
I did the marathon a few years ago, and I was literally so slow that they were packing up the bollards behind me. Like, hurry up. So, yeah, no, I'd love to get back into it, though.
That is a great effort, Jack, running a marathon. Congratulations to you on that. And over 3 million Australians have running as their form of exercise that gives them joy and keeps them healthy, including NRL champ Ben Lucas, who shares his joy of jogging.
So, Ben, when it comes to your footy career versus your running career, how different are they?
Well, funnily enough, so, you know, back in the day, running used to be my job, but now running is the escape from my job. You know, I work pretty big days, but I really try to fit in a run sometimes, and it makes me feel so much better for getting back into work.
We all talk about that runner's high. Why is it so important for our mental and physical health?
There's a couple of things. Being outdoors in nature, fresh air, sunlight are so good for you as well as those post-exercise endorphins that really make you feel good.
So apart from sort of the cardiovascular health and the mental health, what's some of the other benefits we can get from running?
There's the longevity. There's been studies show that you live so much longer for running regularly too. Obviously, calorie burn, weight loss, so you're carrying less weight on your joints, on your knees, on your back, so it's actually not bad for your joints. Running is good for your joints too.
As a woman, what are some of the best ways to build muscle fitness? It's going to really improve my core, my fitness, and my overall strength.
There's a lot of running-related things that women can do that can help them with that. So running hills is really good for your quad and core strength. Another way is sand running too, which is great for your lower body strength. And also doing some body weight resistance training, things like lunges, squats, planks, and dips are going to really help you build your strength.
So, Ben, I love running, but what's some of the ways I can avoid the early burnout?
Yeah, look, I think running some really nice routes as well. Like I like running around Sydney Harbour, Bondi Beach, things like that, where you're really kind of entranced by nature. But I guess another way too, when I run, I like to run near a bus route. So if I don't want to come all the way back, I can just hop on the 333 to get me back home.
I like that one. I'm going to use that. Or a taxi stand.
Yeah, exactly.
I love what you said. You ran 5Ks in 365 days. Was that hard to get both?
So I just finished up. I'd run five kilometres a day, every day, for 365 days in a row. And for me, I think the 5K distance is achievable for anyone. It only takes between 25 and 40 minutes. You can fit it in at lunchtime. Sometimes I had to do it early in the morning. Sometimes I had to do it late at night after I put the kids in bed, but I could find 30 minutes at some stage during the day to get the 5K done.
If I was going to do a fun run, how do I set this up? What are some tips?
I would make sure you give yourself enough time. So 6, 8, 10 weeks apart to train for it. I would set a regular training plan. Okay, I'm going to run on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and I would also add in some other sorts of training too. Would you do some strength training, doing some yoga, doing some core work, doing some Pilates, things like that? They're going to assist with you being a better runner.
Well, I love running and I do get a strange sick pleasure from inclines, I have to say, but I don't do sand. I can't run on sand.
Well, you know what I definitely need when I'm running, and it's a good supportive bra, because if you don't have one of those, it can be very uncomfortable indeed.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, women's sport is under the spotlight like never before in Australia because, of course, we are gripped by FIFA frenzy. I cannot get enough of it. I'm loving it so much. But female athletes in this country are actually being featured in a landmark world study on breast health, Dr. Nick.
You're absolutely right, Joe, because the world governing body of rugby is sponsoring a study here in Australia on how high-impact sports affect the breast. Now, you won't be too surprised to know that data is lacking because, surprise, surprise, all the research previously has been done on the blokes.
So they're starting a study in the most recent upcoming female rugby union season. They're going to collect data over 2 years, and the aim is to share that around the world as soon as possible.
Well, they say that half of all female footy players actually sustain a breast injury, but only 1 in 10 athletes actually report it.
Well, of course, men and women are built differently, so it makes sense for our exercise and sport to be catered to us. And now on that, has anybody heard of the buzz phrase cycle syncing?
Yeah, so it started with athletes and coaches using science to work with their menstrual cycle rather than battling through it.
Yeah, so the idea is to track the physiology of the monthly cycle and then tailor diet and exercise to make it work better for the women.
Well, cycle syncing isn't just for Olympic athletes. Mere mortals can use it too as a way of getting the best out of every moment of the month.
Cycle syncing is taking advantage of the stage of your menstrual cycle when we think about planning elements such as diet and exercise. This is relevant for women who have a menstrual cycle, and that's not everybody. So if you're on the pill or if you're after menopause, you won't have this fluctuation in your hormone levels affecting how we feel day to day. Women who have a menstrual cycle have different hormone levels at different times of the month, specifically in reference to the hormone estrogen and the hormone progesterone. The first part of our menstrual cycle is very estrogen dominant. Estrogen makes us feel motivated, it makes us feel drive, it makes us energized. It's the hormone that really invokes our libido and sex drive. Someone who is cycle syncing might time their more intense goals and try and achieve their more intense exercise thresholds at that time. It's the hormone that is really taken advantage of by athletes. When we ovulate, we release that egg and the cells of our ovary switch gear and start to make the hormone progesterone. And progesterone can make us feel a little bit more bloated, a bit more moody. It can make us feel tired. It can make our ligaments a bit more stretchy. We can be a little bit more prone to injury. At this phase of the menstrual cycle, things like low-key exercise are recommended, more like yoga or Pilates. Having a bit of knowledge and education about the menstrual cycle and being able to predict how we might feel at a different time of the month or in a particular week of our cycle is something that can empower us to plan activities that suit how we're likely to physically feel.
From wins in women's sport to one of the great entertainers in the world, we catch up with the King of Swing, Michael Bublé, next on the House of Wellness. Joe, we get a few international guests join us regularly on the House of Wellness, and our next guest right at the top of the tree for me.
You are talking about Grammy-winning superstar Michael Bublé, who I am lucky enough to have interviewed a few times. I just love him. He's so charming, funny, clever, So talented.
Impossible not to like, and he's got a range of scents, up to half a dozen, that are very popular with women and men, Jo.
I love a man in a fragrance, I've got to say, which begs the question, what does Michael Bublé smell like?
Well, he's a big ice hockey fan, as you said, Jo. He's charming, he's a great entertainer, and this time round it was Zoe's turn to catch up with the great Michael Bublé.
You come to Australia a lot and we love you in Australia, but tell me a little bit about when it comes to your performing, was it more to do with sort of your performance on stage or was it your velvet voice that came first?
What's the question? They both seem like you're saying I'm pretty good. And
I'm definitely saying that.
I really like that. But
so when you actually, do you perform because you love to sing or do you perform because you love to perform?
I don't even love to perform. I don't even love to sing. I love the act of connecting with with beautiful human beings, with souls. And since I was about 16 and started working at nightclubs, that was the game. That was the genuine enjoyment, was having an actual genuine connection. And the truth is, it is no different than me sitting here with you.
Talk about connection. It's quite interesting on House of Wellness. We do lots of shows on mental health and their incredible ability to music to really resonate and heal people. And even with my 9-year-old, when she's feeling quite anxious, if I play certain music, she can just chill out a little bit. Yeah. Why do you think music has that gorgeous connection?
Well, I love to say when I hear music, it's the voice of God.
Yeah, I like that too.
I do. I think it's something that goes so deep within us as human beings. And I think it's hard to articulate or explain why it means as much to us. You know, I've got a 9-month-old little girl, and she's the fourth of our cubs or whatever. And it's amazing, at 6 months, 7 months, we would play music and she was already starting to groove, and she would, you could see it change her mood. And it was this very instinctual thing for her. I think for me personally, music has given me inspiration. I think it's taken me through horrible, my lowest times. And I think that's the magic of what it does. That's why one of the things I love about writing songs is allowing people to be the main character in that song, never telling them what it's about, if it's home or if I've written everything or haven't met you. I know who I wrote it for, but I never want them to know, so that they can sort of be the main character in that story.
I've heard some really interesting ways that people maintain a healthy throat, voice, thinking little things like basically absorbing different concoctions and what have you. Do you have a regime or a routine that works best for you to maintain a healthy voice?
For my voice, I like to, by invitation.
Yeah.
I just like to take it. Because my breath smells so pretty. I'm the worst.
Okay.
Please don't ask me
I like your honesty.
Please don't ask me. All of the things that your channel would tell people not to do, that are like things that they should never do.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I do.
Now, my husband is a very fussy person, so I thought I would test by invitation on him. Your first ever male fragrance, Michael Bublé Pahom. Beautiful. He absolutely loved it. Do you, when you're choosing a certain fragrance and style, do you have a personal fragrance that you like to pop into it?
You know, there are things like in here. I think the things like the vanilla that give. I think what I like is that sort of unisex. I don't love anything that's too strong or too sweet. I think I was a big part of creating these, which is I don't know if that's normal for celebrity fragrances, but. For me, it was important, at least at the start, to make sure that when I had to go out and speak about it, that I liked it genuinely. And turned out my wife was a fan, and I thought, she was very hot. And so the fact that she liked it meant a lot to me. I think for me, fragrance has so much to do with our memory, nostalgia, how we feel. And it can take us back to places that we've forgotten we've even been. And so I think for me, it was always very cool, especially as a musical artist, to have that great sense of sentimentality and to know that the fragrance could also be part of creating really new, wonderful memories.
Now, you've definitely nailed it when it comes to the female fragrances. Love Note would be one of my favourites. Do you find that, is there one out of the particular range that you love the most?
Well, I think the original is the one that I...
Yeah, I mean... Why is that?
I think I had the most to do with it. I think I was really terrified, to be honest.
Interesting.
Trepidatious. I did not like the idea of doing a fragrance. I felt it was unattractive. As a male celebrity, I just didn't like having anything to do with anything that wasn't completely genuine. I drove the original owners crazy because I made them go back and redesign the actual bottles, and it was a nightmare for them.
And the bottles themselves are quite classic and quite feminine.
The coolest part about this line is that it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels nice to have something that doesn't suck, you know?
That's certainly
It's
helps.
funny, many times I've gotten in elevators or I've been at restaurants and I have smelled it, and I will literally go over and ask them what it was, and I get more excited that it's mine. And you know what? It's really cool to have a product that makes people feel good.
He really does have that classic crooner voice, doesn't he, Dr. Nick? And I bet, you know what, you can sing too.
Well, you are talking to the lead singer of possibly the worst medical student rock and roll band in the history, Nick Needle and the Four Seps.
Why am I not surprised?
But actually, when I used to sing to the kids, it used to send them to sleep. I'm not quite sure what that meant.
Well, you might have been helping their brains grow, because a new study has found a link between regular daytime napping and brain size.
Yes, spot on there, Jack, because 40 to 69-year-olds who nap regularly have larger brain volumes, which is associated with better longevity and better health. And it's been shown that regular napping can reduce the shrinkage in the brain, equivalent to about 2 to 6 years of extra life. And I love research that fits with my lifestyle.
100%. I think now is as good a time as any for a nap.
I'd be up for it.
Well, when we come back, we're going to take a look at Hines, who's taking us through a breathing masterclass, and why this September is as good a time as any to treat yourself to a new lipstick. We're back after this.
Mental health is important for both genders. It's not about men versus women or placing a priority on one over the other. Women face really unique societal and biological challenges in their life, and that can play a really significant role in impacting their mental health. We look at things like polycystic ovary syndrome, endometriosis, the whole perinatal period, menopause, for just as examples. Liptember started as a fundraiser and has evolved into a national foundation that's the trusted source and the respected leader within women's mental health in Australia. A critical element in our foundation's work is our research, and we conduct this now annually, and we're incredibly proud of it because it's not being done anywhere else in this country. And what this research does is it allows our foundation to identify the priority areas within women's mental health and the areas that we need to distribute funds towards. So we've seen through the research that the top 5 issues for women's mental health in Australia are depression, anxiety, body image, psychological distress, and PTSD. One of the biggest takeaways from this year's report was further support required for that perinatal period, being when a woman first becomes pregnant through to when the baby is around 1 year of age. So our research is telling us that 62% of pregnant women are facing a mental health issue, and a staggering 35% of those are facing a severe disorder, which is really, really concerning. So we've funded projects in the past around supporting mothers and new mothers, such as MBO Australia, which was a groundbreaking program that supported the connection between mothers and infants. And as of recently, we've funded projects supporting the mental health of women who may have received unexpected news around the health and development of their unborn baby, through to single session online treatments for new and expectant mothers to help tackle some of those barriers to seeking support around time, cost, and accessibility. So we have key events throughout the year that help support the work the foundation does, and one of those key events is our flagship fundraiser, Liptember, that we run every September, where we encourage women to go out and purchase a Liptember lipstick from any Chemist Warehouse store and jump online, register and commit to wearing that lipstick throughout the month. But if lipstick's not your thing, you can also get involved by making a general donation or even becoming a regular giver of the foundation. I get that a lot, is that question around being a male, focused on a women's mental health foundation. And I think it's really important for men to acknowledge and understand the important role unique biological factors can play in a woman's mental health, and also for women and men to support people in their lives that may be going through some of these physical challenges, and understanding how that could be placing further burden on their own mental health.
Well, what a fantastic cause that is, supporting better mental health for women. And Jo, you've been a proud Liptember ambassador.
They are an extraordinary organisation. I love everything that they do, and particularly for postnatal care, which is so, so important.
We really need to show all the support we can for new mums, don't we? And what better way to do that than by getting on board Liptember and buying your favourite new shade of lipstick, and perhaps getting a sponsor on board as well.
Well, what a great idea that is, Jack. And still on better health for women, Dr Nick, I understand there's been a breakthrough on endometriosis for women, which affects 1 in 9 in Australia.
Yeah, endometriosis is when cells similar to the lining of the uterus grow outside the womb. And it's a really complex disease, and it presents differently for every single woman. So diagnosis, treatment, very tricky.
And now researchers at Sydney's Royal Hospital for Women have successfully grown tissue from every known endometrioses. Now, I'm struggling to get the words together because I don't even know what that means, Dr Nick.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Jo, because it's a world first, this. So what they've done is grow the tissues in the lab for every single type of endo. And that means they can test new and existing drugs and then work out and tailor for every individual woman what that treatment might be. It'll be an amazing change if it works.
Amazing. We know that good health is a really individual, tailored thing, Dr Nick, as you said, and our own Luke Hines is on a mission to live a better and healthier life. Let's catch up with him and his final masterclass on the art of breathing.
5 more, you got this. Breathing in, breathing in. Breathing in before you just let go. Just let go. Just let go. Okay, 4. Deep breath in. In. That's right. And out. 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 Okay, last 3. Eyes gently closed. We'll just take a slow, big breath.
I want to talk about our fight or flight response, our parasympathetic nervous system, and the effect that breathing has on that.
Yeah, it's a tipping scale, right? And this is what's happening moment to moment. And actually, one of the most interesting things about your breath is that it can actually give you a moment-to-moment indication of where you sit on the scale. Now, let's say that on the left, we have the more fight and flight response. So we have the more sympathetic nervous system where our heart rate increases slightly, our pupils dilate, but our breath also starts to speed up. And when we tip it to the right, we have the rest and digest, the parasympathetic side of things, and our heart rate slows down. And one of the first things you notice is your breath also slows down. Now, we've already been chatting about how this is both happening to you, but you can also start doing this. There's actually a really simple trick with this, and it's sort of like the golden rule of breathing, is if we establish any breathing patterns, so any rhythm of breathing, and they all work, first of all, there's no sort of wrong one, but you take a breath in, say, in for 5 and out for 5. Nice and slow through the nose, yeah, and then again in, and so that's the breath of balance, where you're breathing in for 5 and out for 5. Now, if we just tip that to the left slightly and we breathe in for 6 and out for 4, in for 6. So we increase the inhale and we decrease the exhale. Our heart rate starts to speed up. Whereas if we then tip it the other side, we take a breath in for 4, out for 6, it starts to calm us down. So anytime you find that you want to energize yourself, which is sometimes appropriate, right? You want to sort of get up out of bed, you want to start your day, you want to replace your coffee with a bit of breathing, increase the inhale. Lean on that side. Anytime you want to calm it down, whether it's in the morning to start the day in a nice grounded way, or in the afternoon to sort of leave the day behind, You want to slow the exhale down and really lengthen that.
Is this why yoga and meditation are such huge components when it comes to calming the body and the mind, because they're about connecting with breath?
Absolutely. And to me, yoga is all breathing. I think the sort of roots of the tradition are really breath-based, which is incredible. It's actually been shown that really experienced meditators will breathe about 4 breaths a minute when they're meditating. And so that just shows that they've actually got their body and their breath mastered, right? They're breathing really slow. They're doing everything that we're talking about. Now, there was a recent research paper from Stanford University, and it was really fascinating because it was looking at a couple of different breathing patterns and essentially the difference between meditation and breath work in stress reduction. And so meditation might be where you're simply watching your breath, and breath work in this example is where you're actually using a rhythm of breathing, like a breathing exercise. And breath work was more effective than meditation in reducing stress. To me, what that represents is that it actually gives us a tool.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, when we need it the most, right, when we're most stressed, who's going to sit down and meditate? Which for a lot of people is this experience of like, I'm thinking about not thinking and I think it's working. Yeah. Especially when you need it the most and maybe the hot bath is not available, you don't want to reach for the drink and you can't go for your 30-minute run. What do? Yeah. Well, your breath is there. One more breath in all the way. And then when you breathe out, you're just going to hold your breath for me. So just breathe out, 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 and pause and stay and hold your breath. And it's like shaking up the snow dome of our inner experience, and now you're watching it all settle. Stay there, hold it for a moment longer.
I think what you're saying is really powerful because you are in control. You can, I've got to be careful with this term, you can self-medicate with breath.
Self-regulate.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
You can self-regulate with breath, but it can go both ways.
Yes.
You can regulate for the positive, and you can regulate for the negative by doing what you've shown me. I'm trying to deep breathe, and you see in the movies they get the brown paper bag and they're holding up to their mouth.
Yeah.
So it's about being in the driver's seat. We're in the driver's seat of our breath.
What a powerful lesson, right? And I actually would agree with that so much. And when you think about something like a panic attack, here's another crazy number for you, right? I think it was 65% of ambulance calls in New York City in 2018 were related to respiration, breathing. More than half the amount of people that called an ambulance was for a respiratory thing. And this just comes to show like how significant this is, but also how we're kind of like helpless in the face of like this calamity where the world is breathless.
And you're saying 2019?
This was 2018.
2018,
yeah.
So we're talking pre-pandemic, because we're not talking about respiratory illness from a virus. We're talking about respiratory issues from life.
It's a big one. Sometimes people might write something like this off. They might say, oh, I don't really identify with anxiety. I don't really have sleeping problems, right? I don't really feel tense in my body. I don't have respiratory conditions. Why would I look at breathing? I've been doing it all my life, right? But you have, but there's no guarantee that you've been doing it correctly. And it's not just for people who have symptoms, even though it can be a lifesaver. It's actually for everybody, and this is what I'm trying to get across to people. I really am. I actually firmly believe that everybody can breathe a little better today.
Wow. Who would have thought that just the simple act of breathing could have such a profound effect on how we think and feel? I was overwhelmed at times throughout today's session because not only could I feel relaxed, but I could also feel heightened simply by adjusting my breath. If you've ever felt stuck with your day, your energies, and your emotion, simply bring it back to you, take ownership, and utilize the tool that you have at your disposal all day, every day, your breath. It has the power to change your life.
From the exciting moment of your child's first word through to their first day at school, it's remarkable how quickly the brain grows and develops. By the age of 6, the brain has already reached 95% of its peak size. Being both a nutritionist and a mum to my beautiful daughter Emily means I'm fortunate enough to understand the importance of supporting a child's brain development during this time of growth. One of the key building blocks for the brain is omega-3 DHA. Found naturally in oily fish like tuna and salmon, omega-3 DHAs are essential fatty acids that cannot be synthesised or made in the body. We need omega-3 DHA in our diet to assist with brain development and cognitive function, including a child's thinking, reasoning, remembering, and mental processing. They also contribute to supporting overall eye health. That said, nearly half of Aussie kids growing up don't get enough of these fatty acids through their diet alone. And if your child's a fussy eater or doesn't like fish, supplements are an option to make up the shortfall. For fun, chewable liquid capsules in fruity flavours, a child is certain to enjoy. Kids grow up fast, and feeding their body as well as their brain the nutrients needed to support growth may set them up for life. After all, that's the goal of every parent.
Zoe there on how to help our kids thrive. Now, Jack, don't you think that one of life's great adventures is travelling with our kids?
Absolutely. I just took my kids on holiday, but you know what I learned out of that? Was that kids aren't as interested in museums and artefacts as what I am, and maybe just limit to one activity a day.
That's a good learning, I think. But tell me, what about a road trip, right? Is there anything more punishing than a long road trip with your kids, particularly in summer, the hot car? Oh, my God. So a recent survey of parents of kids under 10 said that they found the road trip overwhelming after 5 hours. Now, 5 hours? I reckon about 45 minutes.
That's what iPads are for. Do you know what I stress about, though? I stress about if you catch a flight somewhere with the kids that the other passengers, you know, my kids are going to be annoying, they might start crying and really make life difficult for those of us on the plane without children.
I would take that over I Spy for 13 hours, wouldn't
True,
you?
I
Although,
would.
again, that's what the iPad's for. Well, we might not be able to control the journey, but we certainly can prepare ourselves to pamper once we get there.
I'm about to go on holidays, I'm about to pack, and I have a lot of makeup. What do you pack? 3 things to ask yourself. Where are we travelling to? What will we be doing when we're there? Dinners, or swimming a lot? And thirdly, what would we like our outcome to be? I think it's all about how you pack it. So deep hot where you can. I would go for creams over lots of powders, as they can often shatter. Do you have a really good palette that has a bit of blushes, bronzer, all in the one? Bring that. It's flat and it's better than bringing a million blushes and bronzers. The key to hitting the ground looking glam is 2 or 3 things. Concealer, bronzer, blush. That's it. If you've done all your hydration on your flight, being from Australia, it's going to be a long one. Then you have locked in all that glow and you're looking healthy. It's just a little bit of makeup. There's no reason to step off with a full face, but you do want to look like you, but in HD. I would say your skincare routine is actually even more important when you're traveling. We are running around, walking a lot more, flying, so everything is going against us. Skincare items I would bring, SPF obviously #1. I then would go for some kind of like spritz or mist, anything that locks in that hydration, sprays, moisturizers, all our skincare. Hair products, if you can fit them in, definitely. I would go for a leave-in conditioner. It really locks in all the hydration you lose in the pool, at the beach, and the sun. You are not allowed to pack any more than 2 hot tools. I would be prepared when traveling, so buy the majority of your products before you leave. And my favourite section when you walk into the chemist is the miniatures. So all the brands we love, but available in a mini size, which is great. Pack it in, it doesn't take a lot of space, and you also have it for when you arrive. A little bit of planning at the start before you leave will ensure that while you're on your holiday, you can enjoy it and look good.
Well, Jack, I reckon one of the great things about going on holiday is it's a chance to get kids away from all those screens.
The iPads, Dr. Nick, I won't lie, they're a nightmare, but it is good to go to the beach, the bucket and spade, and you see your kids just behave differently for a change.
Well, childhood experts would agree, Jack, and Deakin University is part of a world-first study looking at how nature can affect the negative impacts of technology, and they're preferring green time over screen time.
I definitely notice a difference in my children's moods when they're out and about in the great outdoors.
Yeah, and the study is looking at the impact of technology on kids' family units, behaviour and mood, and how being involved in nature can reduce those negative impacts of screen time. And anyone who's interested in taking part in the study can check it out online.
A great idea, Dr. Nick. Also a great idea. After this, we're going to take a look at some pre-workout meals that'll get you racing to the gym. That's coming up.
We live in a world where there's many different ways to move our bodies. Boxing, cycling, dancing, even goat yoga. Whatever your exercise of choice, a consistent requirement is maintaining muscle health, and the nutrient for it is magnesium. Responsible for more than 300 processes within the body, magnesium is an essential mineral that helps regulate muscle contractions and assists with muscle relaxation, supporting overall muscle function. While it's the fourth most abundant mineral in the body, found predominantly in soft tissue, as is the case with other areas of health, our lifestyle choices may have an impact. Poor diet, increased coffee or alcohol consumption, prolonged stress and strenuous exercise can all deplete magnesium levels. Our body may show signs when we are low, as muscles can cramp or spasm. The good news is magnesium can be found in many food sources. Leafy green vegetables such as spinach, plus legumes, nuts, seeds and whole grains, even dark chocolate. We can also explore magnesium in supplement form, tablets and powders, or a cream that works at the site of pain to provide relief. While the various nutrients of the body can take some learning, you don't need to be an expert to understand their benefits in keeping us moving. It's goodness for the body and mind.
Dust, do you know what my latest favourite word is?
Collingwood?
Oh my God, yes! Apart from Collingwood.
You are enjoying that a little bit too much, I have to say.
I'm having a very good year, what can I say? But no, this is a word you might not have heard before, flavonols.
Why have flavonols got you so excited, Joe?
All right, well, flavonols are compounds found in certain foods like fruits, vegetables, cocoa, tea, and they are the latest heroes in brain health.
Flavonols, as you say, Joe, have always been linked to improved memory in the ageing brain, and great news is that a US study has confirmed that to be the case. Even better news, Joe, red wine is included on that list.
How good is that? So berries, dark chocolate, red wine, all good for brain health and improved memory. I love that. I might need to go to the gym afterwards. But here's Hines and Zoe with some more delicious food to get me there.
Food is many things, Zoe. A career for some, a passion for others, an experience, an adventure. But for most of us, food is fuel.
Oh, so true, particularly when you're talking pre and post-workout, Lukey. Now, we've covered the post-workout foods.
And for those who weren't paying attention, here's a bit of a recap. You need good quality protein and carbohydrate.
Now, preferably eaten together for muscle building, repair and recovery. But what you eat beforehand is equally as important.
Exactly. The food that we have right before we train has a direct impact on our exercise duration, performance and intensity. And if you want to know the perfect combination, it's high carb, moderate protein and low fat.
Now, introducing the perfect pre-workout snacks, particularly if you're not a fan of eating a lot before working out, my oat and honey clusters.
Oats are a fantastic source of carbohydrates, and of course, carbs provide our body with energy. And when they're from an oat source, they're actually slow releasing, providing consistent energy levels.
Oats are also a great source of vitamin B, which helps convert carbohydrates into energy, and they also contain protein for muscle support.
Over here, I am blending together one of my favourite pre-workout smoothies. It's amazing for that 60 to 30-minute mark prior to training, depending on what type of exercise you're doing.
It's a good point you make, Lukey, because it's not just the foods you need to take into consideration before a workout, it's timing as well.
And of course, food choices are affected by the time of day we intend on training. So if you're thinking of having a larger meal, we're talking a delicious egg omelette or poached chicken and sweet potato, you want to give yourself a really good 2 to 4 hour window prior to exercise.
But with snacks like us, you can leave a little less time. Now, you'll still get that beautiful energy, but you won't get that gross feeling before working out.
There is nothing worse, and if you can't be bothered making anything pre-workout, don't worry about putting the banana into my smoothie. Simply enjoy it as it is. It's a power bar on its own.
Well, that works perfectly for me, Lukey, because I'll have this, you have the banana, but while we're at it, drop and give me 20.
Also,
yeah.
I can do the 20. It's the drop part, my knees. Oh, hang on.
Fair to say that we represent a fairly good age range across the four of us here on the House of Wellness, and I don't think I'm going to offend anyone by saying no one's under 30, if that's okay.
Sadly, no.
But, Joe, one of the great things about ageing is that I think most of us actually see ourselves as younger than we actually are.
I just can't believe I'm not 25. It's exactly how I feel still. But the great thing is actually feeling younger really does make you healthier, Dr. Nick.
And it's absolutely right, Joe, because there's a raft of studies that associate feeling younger with better overall health. Because people who feel younger than they are not only live longer, but they actually have better quality of life. So it's true.
And surveys suggest that most people actually feel anything from a few years to a few decades younger than they are.
Do you have a favourite age, Darcy?
Well, I reckon, Jack, if you ask me, I've capped myself at about 35. Because I think I'm young enough to stay in touch with the young generation. My kids might argue, but healthy and wise enough, not making the dumb mistakes I made when I was a teenager. So I'm happy with 35.
Yeah. But it's not about trying to pit our 60-year-old self against the 20-year-old. It's all about trying to keep ourselves feeling younger, keeping that zest for life, and, of course, celebrating everything that we've achieved.
Well, I will celebrate that, and that is all we've got time for today, Dr. Nick.
Now, Darcy, if you're aged over 65 and live in Melbourne, have some cognitive decline, bit of trouble with the memory, or problems with your sense of smell, you may be eligible for the Mind Your Nose study. Here's how to apply.
Tickets to Wanderlust True North are on sale now. Leaders in the mindfulness, music, yoga and food space will be descending upon Melbourne, Sydney and the Gold Coast in September. Don't miss out.
And don't forget to pick up our latest lift out with New Zealand Rugby Union star Dan Carter on the cover.
He is a star, Dan Carter. Thanks to Dr. Nick, thanks to Jacqui, Felgate and Joe Stanley and our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time on the House of Wellness.